what's up, HELLRAISERS? Welcome back to another video, and today's video is going to be 31 horror movies and thrillers on 31, which is October the 31st. If you've been following me on this journey all the way to the 31st, yes, I have missed a few days, but that's because I was dealing with a very bad cold. But I'm officially going to drop this 31 horror movies overall. These movies is either movies that I like, either I find entertaining for bad or good reason. I'm going to explain to you what these movies is about. Just be aware these movies might have a couple of spoilers in that. So with all that being said, let's get into today's massive long ass video. If you made it all the way to the end of this video without pausing or any skip, you are a fucking icon. Let's do it. So no more time to waste. We diving in. Hopefully my voice can handle this. So we're talking about 31 horror movies slash thrillers. The first movie on this list is of course Candyman, 1992. This movie is one of those movies that I enjoyed when I was a kid. This movie has traumatized the shit out of me when I was growing up. That will be a video for another time. But this movie tells a story about an urban legend that is being passed around in a very, very small town right here in Chicago. And basically this lady comes to town to try to debunk this whole urban legend. As far as she knows, this urban legend is far real. She actually starts to believe that it's real until it starts actually happening to her. The more she knows, Candyman become a little bit more personal with her, which is played by Virginia Madison. Candyman is played by, of course, no other than the icon himself, Tony Todd. Like I said, this movie is one of my childhood horror movies that I grew up watching, and I love this movie. Even though this movie has a little couple of problems wrong with it, but we'll talk more about that in another video. And starting right out the gate, and moving on to number 29, we have a movie called Hush. This movie tells a story about this young writer that goes away in this cabin by herself, not to mention she is completely deaf. This movie right here is a straight up thriller. It's not a horror movie, but it's a fucking thriller. The reason why I put this movie so high on this list is because this movie is one of my biggest fears. There is a chance that a hearing impaired person can go deaf. It is a chance, but this is one of my biggest fears, that one day I will go deaf and be so isolated and not be able to hear anything that is around me. That will ruin my entire life. But this movie tells this story. Well, I just told you what the movie was about, but this girl, well, this young lady is being terrorized by this crazy psychopath who she can't hear, but she can see him. And if you were to watch this movie, I'm pretty sure it's available on Netflix. If you do watch this movie, you will literally feel for her. You will be her ears, and she will be the eyes. So this is one of those movies that I would highly recommend to anybody on this entire list. Let's keep going. Number 28, we have a movie called Ginger Snaps. 2000. This movie tells a story about a young girl, a young high school student who ended up getting bit by this werewolf, and she becomes a wolf. And her sister is trying to help her, and little by she know her sister can't control her. She's completely out of control. I always forget this beautiful woman's name. I can never remember her name, but she is just a sweetheart for me. But this movie is on this list because how good this movie is. This movie has great practical effects, which is the biggest reason why this movie is on this entire fucking list. I actually enjoyed watching this movie. I actually watched it twice since the first time I watched it last year in October, way before I had my YouTube channel. Moving on into number 27, we have a movie called Dead Silence, 2008. This movie tells a story about this doll that's been passed around person to person, house to house, and there's this lady that controls this puppet. And every time someone screams, she rips their tongue right out of their mouth. If you scream one time, your tongue gets ripped out of your fucking mouth. So I would truly say, if you watch this film, you will be completely bothered and completely disturbed by how creepy and how so invested this movie is. Right from the opening scene, this movie puts you on a ride that you're not expecting. So this is one of those movies that if you watch it, you probably won't make it all the way through without going, what the fuck? Number 26, we have a movie called The Stranger, 2008, excuse me. This movie tells a story about this young married couple who is looking to basically just kind of like put some more excitement into their marriage. So they goes away in this cabin, and little by they know they is in the wrong town on the wrong night at the wrong time. They find themselves being terrorized by the three strange strangers who look to make their night a living hell. And what these strangers does to these two young couples will make you want to cry and cry out loud to help them the best way you know how. And this movie is a massive ride from start to finish. And honestly, you're not expecting it. One of my favorite scenes in this entire movie, spoiler, is when Liv Tyler was at the door and the stranger knocked on the door and she was like, "Is Barbara here?" And just that alone, just really run a cold, just like my whole spine just turned cold the moment I hear that. Good stuff. Moving on into number 25, we have a movie called Funny Games. Stay with me, people. Now, this movie is a fourth wall breaking type of thriller movie, and this movie right here takes you on the ride of a what the fuck kind of movie, and like more like what the hell is happening. This movie tells a story about these two young boys who decide to make this family life a living hell, literally for 24 hours. Spoiler alert. They basically traumatize this family to the point where they end up killing them and dumping their body in the fucking river. Or I guess you would say like a lake, basically on where they live. And what these young men does before they kill the family will make you go like, yeah, I don't want to trust too many people. Not in my house. Moving on into number 24, we have a movie called The Invitation. Now, the reason this movie is on my list, which a lot of people will probably say this movie is boring, but they will be lying to you. This movie is fucking awesome. What this movie delivered to you is what you don't want to see in real life. This movie tells the story about this man and his wife goes to his ex-wife family little family dinner, a nice little getaway from the whole society. They just looking, they party, drink, have a good old time, and all of a sudden shit goes dark when he just found out that his ex-wife is into this whole dark cult thing. Like basically she represents a dark, evil cult that is looking to sacrifice people, and she literally, her and her new husband is literally being completely creepy throughout the entire movie. Like, I don't want to spoil no more of this movie because this is a movie that you will have to watch. And trust me, when you watch this movie just check it out on Netflix. I don't want to say no more about this movie. I don't want to spoil nothing. Moving on into number 23, we have a movie called The Falcon, one of my childhood films, and I love this movie still to this very day. I will definitely be reviewing this movie for you very, very soon. But like I said, one of my childhood films, this movie tells a story about this alien invasion that is taking over this small little high school, and what they do in this entire film with the whole alien stuff is pretty much what you've seen in other alien films. They take over a body and then they started making them do some weird things. They act in a very strange way. And this movie has some great fucking cast in this movie. I don't want to have to name all of it, but like I said, this movie has a big cast in this movie. And this movie takes you on the ride just like every other movie on this list that you was not expecting. Even though maybe the ending could be a little bit predictable, because there is a specific plot point in the movie where a lot of people can say they saw that coming from a mile away. But it's still a good movie. I still enjoy it. I'm pretty sure you would too. Moving on into number 22, we have a movie called Psycho. Psycho 2. 1983, excuse me. This movie tells a story about 22 years, starting from the first film, Alfred Hitchcock film, 1960. 22 years later, Norman Bates get out of this mental institution, and he finds himself working in this diner where he is trying to prove that he is a good person now. He's a changed man, and little by you know, his past starts to haunt him. And no matter what Norman does, he cannot put aside his his past, his dark past. And honestly, this movie is it's such a great example of what a sequel should be. If you haven't seen Psycho 2, I would highly recommend Psycho 2. Watch Psycho 1, 1960, and then watch this one. You can really feel that I guess you say that general connection between like the two. This movie is fucking awesome. I love this movie. Moving on into number 21, we have a movie called Drag Me to Hell, 2009. This movie tells the story about this young banker who's looking to become. She's looking to get the highest position at her job, and the only way to do that, she has to impress her boss the best way she know how. Well, one day turned bizarre. That's when an old lady come inside the place and decided to make her life a living hell. All she had to do is just give this lady one small request, and that one small request was to let her keep her house. She did not want to lose her house. She loved that house. That's her grandbaby's house. That's her house when she was little. That's her mother's house. All that girl had to do is just give her what she wanted, but she didn't. So she decided to say no, and so the lady get up and the lady started begging and pleading, like, let me keep my house, please. And then she basically just say, no, get off of me, and she just shamed the lady. And ever since then, that lady decided to make her life a living hell. And she literally dragged her to hell throughout this entire movie. She's dragging this young lady to hell, and she's not stopping until that last climax of that movie. Check this motherfucker out if you get the chance. This movie is fucking crazy. It's literally batshit crazy, I'm telling you. Moving on into number 20, we have a movie called CARR, 2019. This movie tells the story about a young woman who looks to go find her father inside of his house. She don't know where he is. Everybody's trying to reach out to her father. She has no idea where he's at. As soon as she gets to his house, she realized that he is trapped inside the basement. Well, not a basement, it's on like underneath his house, which is completely filled with water. It is raining in the entire town. There's a fucking tornado. I guess you say a hurricane, if you will, and it basically just decimated the entire area where they at. Inside the water is some flesh-eating crocodiles or alligators who are looking to eat anything that they can possibly eat. And they is underneath this fucking little small section in this house. And this movie, this is the kind of movie you want to watch when it's raining outside, because it's raining in the movie. It kind of puts you right in the fucking mood. But this movie, like I said, is fucking awesome, and it will literally take you on the ride, just like I said, every other movie on this entire fucking list. Moving on into number 19, we have a movie called Oculus. Oculus? Oculus? I believe it's Oculus. This movie tells a story about two young kids who watch their parents go mentally insane because they purchased a mirror. This mirror is part of why their parents have literally drove themselves insane. The mother has drove herself insane so much that the father had to take the mother and handcuff and lock her in the room away from the kids because she was trying to harm her own children. As the kids grow to get older, they want to find out the mystery and the whole purpose of this mirror. Little by they know, the mirror is far more darker than what I'm telling you and what they turn to know. On top of that, the movie starts to make them go insane themselves. Not the movie, I'm talking about the mirror, excuse me. But the mirror makes them go insane, and now they found out that this movie, I keep saying movie, this mirror is not a fucking joke. This again, this mirror is a fucking bizarre mess, and they are trying their best to put this mirror to rest. Like I said, a ride you're not expecting what this movie takes you on. So moving on into number 18, I don't know how to say the name of this movie. Octophoba, or something like that. This movie stars Jeff Daniels. This movie tells the story about this small town that is being terrorized and taken over, excuse me, by some flesh-eating spiders. These spiders is massive ass fucking spiders, and they are looking to bite any fucking thing that they can bite, anything they can get their motherfucking little creepy ass legs on. I don't fucking like spiders. Stay far away from me with that shit. But like I said, this movie is probably not the only movie on this list that will make you feel like your skin is being crawled. But it's one of those movies where you're gonna have to watch with your legs tucked up to your chest because you don't want nothing touching you while you watching this fucking movie. Like I said, this movie is bone crawling. It is probably the only movie on this list that I can probably say, excuse me, it's the only movie on this list I could probably say I only watched one time throughout my entire life. Maybe once, maybe twice. Maybe, no, actually I watched this movie twice. But like I said, this movie is just, it's, it's a skin crawl movie. Moving on. Moving on into number 17, we have a movie called Secret Window. This movie stars Johnny Depp. This movie tells a story about this young writer who goes to this cabin, look to get away from society, and trap himself in this cabin until he writes a new story. And the story is far interesting. It goes like this. Every time he writes something, it comes to life. It comes to life, whatever he writes. And at the end, he found out, spoiler alert, but no spoiler, because I want you guys to watch this movie. But like I said, this movie gets interesting. Whatever he writes comes to life. There's a mystery involving his story. And his name is John Tudor. And every time he writes something, there is another mystery involving that mystery, and every time he writes something, the story unfolds every single time. The movie gets interested, really interested. By the time the ending hits, you will be shocked and mind blown about what the twist is. However, don't watch the trailer. I'll probably not put any trailer in for this specific one because the trailer might hit you something that you'll see coming from a mile away. But like I said, watch this movie, you will be mind blown about what the twist is. Moving on into number 16, we have a movie called Don't Breathe, 2016, part 1. This movie tells a story about some, I guess you say like the middle-aged teenager who goes inside this house looking to rob the place. What they don't know, there's a blind man on the inside of that place, and basically this blind man decided to protect himself. He decided to protect his home. These young teens don't realize who they fucking with. They don't realize who they dealing with. This just isn't any blind man. This man literally defend himself to the finish line, and he will stop at nothing until these kids are completely dismembered. This movie is a straight up ass horror movie, and it will keep you on the edge of your fucking seat. Feel for the kids, but you're rooting for the man to protect his home. Moving on into number 15, we have a movie called The Descent. This movie tells a story about 5 young females, I guess they're middle-aged females. They look to have a nice little height. They find themselves going out in the mountain, down into the cave, and when they get inside these caves, there is some flesh-eating man-like creatures who are looking to whip their bodies open to eat their inside. And what this movie shows you is literally one of those kind of movies that will make you feel like everything is so claustrophobic and make you feel like everything is closing in on you. You see these creatures running across the fucking cave. I definitely will be reviewing this movie soon rather than later. But like I said, this is one of those films where you is so fucking invested. And if anybody say that this movie is boring, I swear to God, I would slap them in the face just for the sake of just even opening their fucking mouth. This movie is fucking awesome. Period. Into number 14, another fighter movie for you, starring David Arquette. This movie is titled Eight-Legged Freak. This movie right here is one of those early 2000 movies that I enjoyed. Which this movie is a little bit different from the other movie I was just telling you about with the spiders. This movie has these massive ass fucking spiders, damn near a size of dinosaurs, if you would say. This movie right here is literally, um, this is the first Spider movie that I've ever seen that literally made me hate big ass spiders. Not them little ass spiders. Hell no. These massive fucking spiders. Spiders that's almost about the size of my fucking hand. No fucking way. I'm not touching a spider this big. Not gonna fucking happen. Why do I wanna touch that? Fuck no. No. But this movie right here, they ain't little spiders. They these gigantic ass fucking spiders. Humongous ass fucking spiders. This movie is well act. The acting is pretty good in this fucking movie. But what bothers me is the fucking spiders. This movie right here tells a story about a town that's dealing with massive ass fucking spiders, and the people inside this town must fight against these crazy ass, drug out ass fucking spiders. And what they deliver in this movie is even, like I said before, is far more disturbing than what I'm telling you. Watching this film will not make you feel safe, is what I'm saying. You will pray every day that spiders don't get that big. And if they do, you better prepare yourself because them motherfuckers can jump on rooftops and they can cave inside your fucking house. So fucking bizarre. Moving on into number 13, we have A House on the Haunted Hill, 1958. This movie tells a story about 5 or 6 people come to this haunted house, and the last person who survives throughout this entire fucking house will win, I believe, $10,000. And this just isn't any haunted house. This house is just scary just for the sake of just trying to scare these people out of the house. That way they won't get the money. This movie stars the late great Vincent Price. He's one of my favorite actors ever. One of my favorite actors. And this movie right here is a fucking cult classic. And if you haven't seen this film, I would highly recommend this movie because it's a fucking classic and I love the hell out of this fucking movie. This movie is also a remake, but like I said, I would rather watch the 1958 version. To number 12, we have a movie called The Mist. This movie tells a story about a small town, once again, another small town that is dealing with this, like this fog or this mist, if you would say, that's basically just isolated the entire town. It's black, it's just blurred out. These people are trapped inside the fucking store and they can't see shit. All they can see is this mist. Inside this mist is fucking flying ass, big ass spider flies, spiders. Inside the mist also is this massive ass fucking alien-like creature that is damn near bigger than anything in this world, probably about the same size as the Empire State Building or the Steel Tower, if you would say. But like I said, this fucking creature is humongous. Throughout the entire runtime of the movie, it's literally about people trying to survive, fighting against these fucking creatures, these creature features. At the end, the movie just takes a big dip. It literally just makes your heart crack into little bitty pieces. No spoilers. Check this movie out. I ain't spoiling nothing. Moving on into number 11. Oh, my voice. Moving on into number 11, we have a movie called The Shallows. This movie tells a story about a young woman who basically just gets away from society, another society type movie. She gets away just to go surfing on the fucking I forgot what place it was, but she go there, just to surf, trying to keep the memories of her mother alive. Her mother died from cancer, and basically she just go there, she having a good ass time, and all of a sudden she get hit by this fucking shark that literally make her life a living hell. She is trapped on this little bitty ass rock through our entire runtime of the movie. I would definitely be reviewing this movie for like further details. But like I said, this movie is fucking awesome. It stars one of my favorite crush of all time. That will be Blake Lively. But like I said, this movie is fucking bone chilling. Also, it's one of those movies that make you feel for the victim that's in the movie and also make you root for her at the same time. So yeah, check this movie out, please. Moving on into number 10, we have a movie called Idle Hands. Where do I start with this movie? This movie is It's one of those movies that a lot of people say is so bad it's good. Well, these are definitely one of those type of movies. This movie tells a story about this young man whose hand is possessed by the devil and he can't control it. Hopefully YouTube don't get offended by me saying that word. But his hand is possessed and he can't control his hand. His hand is out of control. His hand make him do things that he is not doing himself. And the only way to stop this possessed hand, he has to cut it off. And even that does not stop it. His hand still go off and do crazy shit, if you would say. This movie is just, it's a laugh out loud dark comedy movie. It's like, especially today, if you watch this movie today just based off me explaining what this movie is about, you'll be like, I'm not gonna watch it. Just watch it just for the sake of just having a good laugh. It's a good laugh movie, trust me. Number 9, we have The Last House on the Left, 2009. Now, this movie right here is not for everybody. I truly understand. So when I explain this movie, do not get offended. I'm going to try not to say too much because I don't want YouTube, you know what I'm saying, to try to censor me. So this movie tells a story about this family that's living in this house, and basically everything turned wrong when they found out that their daughter was, she was sexually blamed by some people that escaped from jail, if you would say, and they ended up inside the house, but they did not know that their daughter was blamed by these people. And basically, they have to live or die. The family literally has to fight back to protect their daughter from these crazy, delusional ass people. And what this movie delivered to you is far more disturbing. Like I said, it's far more disturbing than than what I'm saying. But like I said, these are one of them kind of movies that make me feel for women as well. But like I said, this is a kind of movie that I would hesitate to review because of a specific thing that happened in the movie. It's just a tragedy. But like I said, as you can see, I'm really getting emotional. But like I said, this movie right here is definitely one of those movies that I would not recommend to anybody, and particularly women, excuse me. I would not recommend this movie, but it's a good movie. But there is that specific scene that dragged on for too long. It just makes me feel so uncomfortable. But that's pretty much gonna wrap up that movie. I can't talk no more. Another movie on this list is called The People Under the Stairs, a Wes Craven movie. This movie tells the story about this young man who looked to go to this house and basically rob the place, if you would say, and he ended up finding himself trapped inside the house. Inside the house, there are some people under the stairs, and these people under the stairs is not the bad guys. They're trying to help him. He thinks they the bad people, but they're not. The family of the house is the bad people. They basically capture young kids and people in general and trap them underneath their house. This is one of those movies that I grew up with from my childhood, that I like it, but even now, watching this movie now, almost, it's like a guilty pleasure type movie for me now. But like I said, I still enjoy it. I recently watched it, but like I said, it's just a movie that I enjoy from my childhood. Every time I watch it now, I laugh out loud, or most likely I fall asleep. It's good for background noise, if you would say. Moving on into number 7, just like The Last House on the Left, this movie is called I Spit on Your Grave. The same problem that happened, the same situation that happened inside of I Spit on The Last House on the Left, excuse me, is pretty much the same thing that happened in I Spit on Your Grave. This young lady, this movie tells a story about a young lady who goes to this cabin to write a book, and all of a sudden, these fucking stupid ass men come there and decided to just fuck with her, and then do the dirty to her. And basically, they think they killed her, but they did not. She comes back and she decided to get her revenge. That's all I'm gonna say. This movie does have other sequels, but I would say this is probably the best one. But like I said, I would not recommend this movie to any female, period, because like I said, this is a hard movie to watch. And even for me as a man, because I hate the fucking dudes that do this shit in real life, and I also dislike what they did to her in this fucking movie. So moving on into number six, which might be pretty controversial. I put number six is a movie called The Omen, 1978, 1975. I think it's 1975. This movie tells a story about the Antichrist, which is inside of a young boy who basically ended up being with this family who did not expect this to happen to them. Well, this young boy is the Antichrist himself. He is surrounded by people who protect him, and no matter what happens, no one can ever harm this little boy. Everyone around him dies in some very, very ungruesome ways. But what they show you surrounding the death is probably some of the best death on any fucking horror movie screen you've ever seen. One of my favorite scenes in this entire movie is the head decapitation. The head decapitation is one of the best on-screen deaths you will ever see, because there is not so much effort in that because it was done with perfection. Like I said, I would definitely be reviewing this movie because this is a movie for a different video. Moving on into number five, we have a movie called Sweetheart. You can watch this movie on Netflix. This movie tells a story about a very, very, very beautiful young woman. I love her. Anyway, moving on. This movie tells a story about a young woman who finds herself trapped on this island with this fucking creature, and she has no idea what it is. She don't know who it is, what it is, or what the fuck is doing there, but it's on this island. She's trapped on this island with this fucking creature, and she has no idea what to do but to survive. And she decided it was gonna be a 1v1 between her and the creature. And what they show you in this movie is exactly how you're supposed to treat a creature feature movie. I love this movie because it's a creature like a creature rather than just some shock body. Come on, people. This is a good fucking movie. Check it out on Netflix. Moving on into number four, we have a movie called Jennifer's Body. Jennifer's Body tells a story about this young high school girl who finds herself on the wrong night at the wrong time when she gets captured and taken by basically some devil worshippers or like band, and they basically turn her into this demon like creature or something that feed off male blood, and that's the only way she can survive. And this is one of those movies that I have to review for a separate video because there's a lot to talk about with this movie. There is a lot of shit wrong with the movie. There's a lot of controversy revolving the movie and the actress. This beautiful soul right here. There's a lot of things about this movie that I have to make in a separate video by itself. But like I said, this movie, the dialogue is fucking insane. It's literally some of the most cringiest dialogue you will ever hear. It's not as bad as Rob Zombie films, but it's definitely one of those cringy out loud type movies that make you just go, what the fuck did he just say? Anyway, moving on into number three, we have a movie called Jawbreaker. This movie tells a story about some young high school students who look to have this nice surprise party for their best friend who is inside her house asleep. They break in her house, grabs her, put an egg in her mouth, put duct tape over her mouth, put her in the back of the trunk of their car, wait until the next morning, go back there, and boom. And that's all I'm gonna say. This movie is one of those 90s films that I enjoy the hell out of. I love this movie so much. This movie is literally one of my favorite 90s films when I was growing up, and I'm not gonna spoil nothing else because the movie gets better when they reveal what happened to their best friend in their car. If you've seen this movie, you already know. So please check this movie out when you get the chance. Moving on into number two is A Nightmare on M Street 1984. Now, the reason this movie is not in my number one slot is because I have another movie there, pretty much debatable whether or not if these movies should be number one or number two. But like I said, Now bear with me here, people. Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, is at number 2. This movie tells the story about these young high school kids that is being haunted and terrorized by this unstoppable force inside their dreams. No one believes them until they end up dead. Even that is not enough to convince people. Throughout the entire movie, we have learned more and more about who this person is. He go by the name Freddy Krueger. He's basically been terrorizing these kids because their parent is responsible for his death. So he decided to take it out on their children. And what he does to these kids in this movie is fucking insane. This will also be another review for another video. But like I said, this movie is one of my favorite movies from the 80s, period. I am a huge Freddy fan. I love all the Nightmare on Elm Street films, except of that 2010 version. I don't like that shit. I think that was a fucking joke. But like I said, this movie right here is fucking awesome. I'm pretty sure we all seen these movies. Moving on into lucky number one. Lucky number one is a movie called Devil, which is an M. Night's movie. Devil tells a story about 5 or 6 people trapped on the elevator, and one of those 6 people is the Antichrist, the devil. They have no idea who the fuck is the devil. Once that light flicks off, someone dies. And every person that dies, they have to say, well, he was not the devil. And finally, the big reveal, no spoiler here, but what they found out on that elevator is far more than what I'm telling you. But check this movie out. It should be on Netflix or Tubi TV. But like I said, this movie is one of the craziest movies on this entire fucking list. So, Hellraiser, if you made it throughout this entire video without any skip, without any pause, you are a fucking boss, a straight up boss. If you have paused the video, you still a boss, but there was a challenge for me and for you as well. So with all that being said, I wish you guys the very best Halloween you could possibly get. Make sure you stay safe because there's a lot of crazy shit going on Halloween day itself. So, like I said, in all my other videos, make sure you keep a beautiful smile on your face. Stay positive, stay creepy, and I'll see you here in the next video.